obtains vengeance. So I don't agree with the rabbi there. Anyway, I read this really good essay on Chabad.org, 4 reasons why you should gossip, and here are just 2 of them. Reason number 2, you are God's warrior. Just as God cannot tolerate falsehood, so too you, as his fighter, have a moral obligation to search, find, and publicize your fellow's secrets, so that he should not, heaven forbid, receive false respect and feel haughty. In short, it's all in the name of God. Reason number 3 to gossip. It is a custom among families and communities from way back when that on many an occasion, especially around the dinner table, a human sacrifice is laid on the table or altar and slaughtered with verbal knives and daggers. In short, we don't mess with tradition.
Is this like a Purim Torah or something?
I think he's being sarcastic.
I think it's a Purim Torah. Did he print it on?
No, it's on there right now. It's not a Purim Torah.
All right.
But I remember Rabbi Mordechai Finley would talk about often when we do something nasty, it's like, oh, I'm just delivering divine karma.
Okay.
And so that's like a very tempting rationalization for behavior to say, oh, I'm just delivering divine karma. Wow. So Butler's finally getting some offensive rebounds.
Yeah, but they're not putting the ball in the hoop, so what good is it?
I've had that problem myself. That's why I take Levitra.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I did until I converted to Orthodox Judaism.
Okay, so you were talking about Aaron Taylor, and now you want to talk about blowjobs from...
So I want to ask, how many blowjobs can a rabbi receive from his students that he's not married to before that rabbi should stop teaching Torah? Like I remember this rabbi who was busted having child porn.
By the way, it's a very subtle segue there.
I think so. So there was this rabbi who was busted for having child porn on his computer, and like when I'd hang out with him, he just couldn't stop giving Divrei Torah. Like in this other rabbi who was busted for like...
Wait a second. There was a rabbi who busted for having child
porn on his computer. And whenever I'd hang out with him, because he pled guilty.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How come I never heard about this?
Maybe you don't read Lashon Hara.
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing.
So nice, totally not likable guy. I like him, and
right.
And but like whenever I'd be around him, he'd be giving Divrei Torah just like Rav Elyashiv.
Right.
And another rabbi, a friend of mine, acquaintance, who pled guilty to a sex crime with a minor, like he too would like be constantly giving over Divrei Torah. So
how many of these people do you know?
I know a few because I write on these people. So my question is, how much sexual misconduct can you engage in before you should stop publicly speaking about Torah? Like, it's just like one blowjob for the student and then you should quit for life, or do you have to have 15? If you have an adulterous affair but it's not with a congregant, it's just with someone else, should you stop teaching Torah? Like, how much sexual misconduct can you engage in before you better stop teaching Torah?
You just love this stuff, don't you?
I'm just curious. I just want clarity.
I've seen a lot of that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just in the teaching; it's also in the kashrus world.
Mm-hmm.
Big time in the kashrus world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I got to say.
So you don't have like the answer's not 7 or 33.
I've seen everything. You know what I mean?
And you don't think, like, I tell you what, I'll be serious for a minute. I was kind of like being a little flippant, but I still was serious. I think once you're a rabbi to all of the Jewish people. So if you have an affair, just because it's not with a congregant, I think if you have an affair, you should stop publicly being a rabbi. You should not be teaching Torah. I think if you have sex with someone you're counseling, you have sexual interaction with a student, or an adulterous affair, any of those things, I think that should end your career as a rabbi who publicly teaches Torah. Because I know if I was sitting there in the congregation and this person got up to speak, I just think, man, I know you've been boning my next door neighbor who you're not married to. Like, I can't take seriously your teaching on Torah. So for me, I go seriously on this. I go with one strike and you're out. So that's if you're married. If you're married and you commit adultery,
yeah,
or even if you're unmarried but you get it on with a student, of yours, or you take advantage of someone you're counseling, or someone who comes to you for a get or for a conversion, like you break any of those major trust boundaries, I think you should never teach Torah again publicly.
Okay, what were the list again? I think I actually agree with you.
Okay, so if someone comes to you for a conversion or for a divorce, and you have sex with them?
Yeah, that's in other words,
taking advantage
what's
of your
that
position.
word? Conflict of interest or whatever you want to call it, or
impropriety.
Impropriety. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like that's the case of Tenor in Muncie.
He was accused of that.
Right. What was the other one you said? That was with gets and conversions. Both of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was accused of. I didn't know the full story.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's not
so
kosher
I think
at all.
one instance of that.
Yeah, that's no good.
And I would even say one instance of adultery.
But the thing is, that adultery is only minor so I don't know if I agree with that. Because it would be different if he was with a man's wife, and then I would agree with it.
Yeah, if he was with another man's wife.
If he was with another man's wife, there's a case of that I know of that happened in Kashrus.
Yes, because that's adultery. If he's with a single woman, it's not adultery.
Right. Well, if it was a rabbi with a married woman,
yeah, that's adultery.
and it was photographed because the guy left a spy camera in the closet. I'm just saying, if that happened, no excuses for that. All right. That's not not kosher. If it was a guy who's married, but he was with a woman and it happened,
not married.
who's not married,
then it's not really adultery. So.
It's not adultery, and I don't know how.
I'm not sure if that's one case and you're out. If it's a congregant, someone that he's teaching Torah to, then definitely one.
Yeah, that would be more of a problem. There was a rabbi. I'm not going to say where, but he was married, and like 3 or 4 women came out of the woodwork and said they slept with him.
I think he should be done.
Yeah, and he was the rabbi of the congregation.
Yeah,
I think like he had no business being a rabbi of that congregation.
Or any congregation. I think you should stop publicly teaching Torah and you should start selling insurance. Okay, there was this rabbi in Israel who set up his own yeshiva, and he had this special lock on the door, and he'd counsel young men. They'd come in and the door would lock behind them, and he'd counsel them, and he'd get them talking about masturbation, and then he'd start fondling them. And he like sodomized.
I just want to finish the point. I'm sorry, you're going ahead, but I'm not done. And I'll tell you why. I actually had a discussion like this with my own rabbi years ago. We were discussing a similar topic, and there's certain things that don't puzzle certain things. Let's say.
What does puzzle mean?
Make it non-kosher. Render something non-kosher, right? Let's say like you had a conversion, and if it was found out that the rabbi who converted you did X, Y, or Z. Yeah. What would the ramifications be retroactively on your conversion?
Nothing.
That's the question. That's the question we were dealing with, right? And we went through there was like a list of things that like certain things were like don't have an effect on other things. Right. If a man like fooled around with other women, right, and that's got nothing to do with kashrus, right? You know, like he's for sure if he's single, you know, and he slept with a whole bunch of women who I was single. That doesn't make the food treif if he was the mashgiach. You know, if he was married and he fooled around with a woman, that doesn't make the food treif, right? It was questions like that. What would make the food treif if you saw perhaps him driving on Shabbos? That could have an effect because it needs someone who's shomer Shabbos. You know, it was like these kind of questions. I just wanted to get that out.
So this rabbi set up a yeshiva so that he could sodomize many of his boys at the yeshiva.
That's not why he set up his yeshiva. That's your take on why he set it up.
Yeah, to me that's you're done.
Get back in the camera.
Like once you.
This way. Towards me.
And also, I've got to be real, I think a homosexual sin is more serious than I think a homosexual sin is more serious than garden variety heterosexual sin. I'm not saying that's the Torah perspective. I'm saying
wait, like Ashish Ish, if a man fools around with a married woman?
No. If a man fools around with a man, that's more serious than if he fools around with an unmarried woman. In my view. I'm not saying that's the Torah's view.
Yes, absolutely. And even if he's married, because according to the Torah, he could have 2 wives, but according to the Torah, it's an abomination to be with a man.
Exactly.
Okay, but the question would be, what if he was with a married woman and did Ashish Ish, right? Which